Hello, welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Joanne, what should we cover tonight?
Well, I thought maybe we could talk about how to generate finance charges for customers that are overdue on their invoices.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
We should probably take this in a couple of stages. Maybe one, we'll look at the setup, and then we can go through and run through one and talk a little bit about it that way.
Okay, great.
So I guess before we do anything, we'll go in and talk about where we can set up a couple of options.
Okay, great. Let's take a look.
Okay. So I'm going to go into accounts receivable, and I'm going to go into the system button. And just a couple of things to note here. First of all, in the lower part of the screen, you can set up the percentage that you want to apply. Now, this isn't an annual percentage. It's a percentage that will be used each time you run the routine.
Okay.
So typically, if you're going to run it every month, you'd set it up as the monthly charge.
Okay.
But essentially, it's when you run the routine, it's going to use, that's the percentage it's going to use.
And it's going to apply that to the overdue invoice amount.
Correct.
Okay.
Second thing in here is you can assign a GL code. In the default GL accounts, you've got one here for default finance charge. So that will be the code that gets used when the invoice gets created. So what's going to happen is it'll run through. It'll look for eligible customers. It'll look for eligible invoices. It'll create a single invoice for each customer that it finds at an amount that's past due. Apply the finance charge percentage, and it'll assign that GL code.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
So can we take a look at how to
Sure.
apply the finance charges?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if I just cancel out of here, you'll notice if you come up under the entry menu at the very top of the module, there's a function in here called Create Finance Charge Batch. And all it does is alert you that you're about to create the finance charge batch. Do you want to continue? Yes. And it'll tell you that it's been created. Now, if it doesn't find any invoices, it will come back and alert you that no qualifying records have been found.
Okay.
And it won't go any further.
Okay, great.
Okay. But in this case, it found some. So I can hit OK. And it creates the batch as unposted. So if I go to batch entry, okay, it did create a batch. It found one customer, okay, and it created a single invoice. Now I know for a fact if I go out to this customer, what I have is I have two invoices, one dated today at $1,000, one dated earlier in May for $1,000. So the one today was excluded. The one from May obviously got picked up. 1.5% at $1,000 would give us our 15.
Okay.
Okay. Another option to consider is at the customer setup file, you can choose which customers are eligible.
Okay.
So if I have, half of my customers I don't want to have an invoice created, I can, set them that way in the customer setup.
Okay.
So that they won't come in, even if they have invoices that would otherwise be eligible, they just won't come in.
Okay.
Okay.
So are there any other parameters that determine when they get it
Yeah,
created?
good question. Basically what happens is it looks strictly at the terms code.
Okay.
So if you've got the customer set up, for example, net 30, it's going to look at when the invoice goes beyond 30 days past due. So it's looking at the invoice date plus the terms code. So invoice date of January 1st. If it's net 30, once it gets to January 31st, it'll be seen as past due.
Okay. And then if I say to generate the finance charges, it will do it only for those customers that are marked to do that. Is that correct? Okay, great.
And then once the nice thing about it is once the invoice gets paid on February 1st, when you run it again next month, that invoice won't get picked up and be included. So
Now, if a customer has two overdue invoices, does it create two separate finance charge invoices, or does it create just one?
just one.
Just one.
Yep, it'll be
total.
one for the total amount overdue.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, this was another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Please look forward for more to come.